Well, welcome to our Hour of Power, everybody. I'm super excited today. I've been really looking forward to this Hour of Power because I got to get know Alan at an event that I went to, a training event that I went to. And we kind of, had a few more conversations after that, and really intriguing person, and even more so what he actually does. So when I was saying to some people that, we're going to have a profiler on the call, we're going to go, a what? Why? But I think you're going to understand more about it. And I know that I did after spending an afternoon actually listening and watching to what Alan was teaching, but also then we spent another 2.5 hours in a car driving back from Sydney to Newcastle, chit-chatting the whole way along in that as well. So let me tell you a little bit officially around Alan though, and then I'm going to hand over to him. So Alan Stevens is an international profile and communications specialist. He's regularly featured on national TV, radio, and in the world's press, profiling the likes of our leading politicians, TV and sports stars, as well as Britain's royalty. He's an Amazon #1 best-selling author, a coach and trainer. He's been referred to as the leading authority on reading people globally by the UK Guardian, and the Mentalist meets Dr. Phil by the Herald. Oh, there we go. Alan teaches people how to understand themselves and read other people so that they can create better and longer-lasting relationships in all areas of their lives. In business, this helps to increase sales and improve staff and customer loyalty. Really important to us, guys. In raising and educating children as well as personal relationships. So right across the whole spectrum, and most of us here, well, we have families of some shape or form. We are definitely in business, and our business more than ever is a relationships business. With international clients, the likes of Disney Films and Gillette, high-profile organisations like the Australian Federal Police or Behaviour Cells, and with the number of personal profiles running into thousands, Alan's services are unique and unrivaled in the field of reading people. So as we go on today, he's going to be showing you some really interesting facts, and then later on you'll see that we actually have some information to post for you of some great little offers that Alan has for you to be able to develop further what he's just going to touch on today for us. So Alan, I'm going to hand over to you. I'm going to pin you here, spotlight you there so that everybody can kind of see you as we go. And then I know that you've got your screen to share as well. So welcome, and first of all, thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with our team today. We really, really appreciate it.
Well, thanks very much for the invitation to do so as well. I've just a bit of my own background. I've been involved in different network companies over the many years. And one of the things I realised was that quite often the training that we get didn't really set us up to be able to connect with other people. So when Celine asked me if I'd be interested in doing this, I thought, yeah, that'd be great. Now, with being in a network marketing program, it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of work that you go through to try and get distributors, people to come in and use your products, etc. And the training hasn't been there for how to connect with people. Now, as Celine said, my whole business is about building relationships. So I don't actually work in any particular field. As Celine has said, my clients are all over the place. Everything from school teachers, psychologists, parents, business people, people like the Federal Police, even Disney Films. And it's all about how to connect with people. And by the way, as we go through this, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat. Celine, if you keep an eye on for me.
Keep an eye on there and kind of pull them out as we go.
That would be great, because I don't want to just make this where I'm talking at you. I'm just going to go through some information about who I am, where I've come from, etc., and then go into how to actually read people. But I'd like to get a lot of questions from you, because this is how you can actually think about how you can use this for yourself. And we can move into that very quickly. So what I'll do is I'll just share my screen with you, and that way I'll just get this thing to work. Okay, and where are we now? See if I got the right one. It's disappeared on me. Hang on. It has too. Okay, let's bring this one up again.
Awesome.
Now,
we're getting a
you're actually seeing the...
Yes, we are. So you'll be able to just put that into
with the slides down the bottom there. So hopefully, if I bring that up, for some reason I picked up the wrong screen. So I'll just try that again.
Okay.
It hasn't picked up the actual slides themselves. And of course, it's not enlarging them anywhere. So where are we going to here? There we go. The problem with me is I've got too many screens on my computer. I've got 4 monitors and all the screens behind them. So,
oh, good. Can I get a thumbs up, guys? Can everybody see the screen now? It should say reading people to enhance relationships. Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you, team.
Great. Okay. Well, that's what reading people is all about. It's how to enhance your relationships. The whole thing is that nobody does any business well. It's all about building trust. Mm-hmm. So it's not a matter of, I've got a phone here that's just making some noise in the background. I'll just get rid of that. Okay. Now, it comes down to building trust. So if nobody trusts you, they're not going to buy from you. They're not going to be interested in what you've got to offer. So you're really not selling a product. You're really selling yourself, selling that connection to be able to connect with them. Now, so that you look at the trust side of it, my background, as Celine has said, I've been showcased in the media around the world. When I went over to London this time last year, working with Disney Films and Gillette, that led to features in places including Russia and all around Europe as well. So my background has been in working with people in all different fields, not just in working with politicians or media. One of the things I found is that the media have given me a great reputation, but really my whole process is about helping the individuals in connecting more effectively. Mm-hmm. As you can see, some of the different clients that I've had there as well. So my background is quite extensive. If you wanted to find out more about me there, my website will have enough information where you can spend hours looking at videos there from testimonials and other jobs that I've done. But basically where this can be used, it's everywhere. How many of you are parents? Would there be quite a few parents in amongst the group?
Yes.
So some of you I can't see. You've actually just got your names up there, but you can put comments in the comments field. They're just answering any of my questions, and that way Celine will know that you're all there as well.
Yes.
So if you're a parent, able to understand your children and be able to see their gifts, where their real potentials are, so you can guide them as they're growing up when they go into school, so that teachers can actually understand them and help them understand their personalities and their learning styles so they have a better experience at school. Then as we grow up, the next area is in finding a partner. So in the dating field, knowing whether the person is who they really say they are. But once you've found that partner, how to actually keep them. So it's a matter then of being able to understand them and being able to connect with them and being able to talk to their traits. Two people who are completely opposite, great attraction. But over a period of time, that becomes heavy maintenance. So being able to understand their traits and speak to their traits, you can have that excitement and a stronger relationship for a very long time. Then with in business, being able to grow your business, and this is where I think most of you are going to be interested today, in how do you use this to connect with people? Mm-hmm. And we're going to go through that. I also work in the area of mental health as well. So anybody, once you understand yourself, you know what pushes your buttons and you're able to control that. In understanding somebody else, then you know when you're speaking to them from the way you want to be spoken to the way they want to be spoken to, you can then actually connect with them in the way that they're going to respond more directly. So if you're talking to a possible distributor, are they going to be a distributor or are they going to be a client? If they come into the business, are they coming in because the products excite them? Or is it the potential of having a brilliant business where they can make a lot of money? So being able to read their personalities gives you that advantage to know how to start talking to them from the first moment. Because as they say, when we talk to people, if we don't talk to them the right way and we miss that first impression, it can take up to 27 times before we actually get it back again. Mm-hmm. Now, in business and in the roles that you're going to be playing, you don't have that opportunity. You know, more than a couple, you become a stalker, and we can't do that. So you've really got to get it in the first instance. How do I get that connection and straight away be able to take that to a positive level and where I want to go? I want the experience that the person has with me to be the best experience they've had, so they want to do it again. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want to do with everybody that you're connected to. So the areas that I work with body language and micro expressions. Now, body language, you've all probably had some experience with that. You know, folded arms. You may get this and people will say, oh, that means the person is not interested in you. They're disconnected from you. Well, it could be a myriad of reasons. It could be that they're cold. It could be that they're intimidated and they're just giving themselves a warm hug. They're interested, but they're feeling a little bit fearful. It could be a whole range of reasons. It could be that sore shoulders, sore back. So you have to see body language in clusters, in connection to the context of the situation, and if it's congruent to the conversation, the connection, and if it's congruent to the other indicators you're seeing. And micro expressions, they were popularised on TV by the Lie to Me show on TV several years ago. Mm-hmm. Paul Ekman was a psychologist in California who realised that the face gives away a certain number of expressions which were universal. We have 43 muscles in the face and they can pull over 3,000 expressions that we can give names to. But there are 7 expressions which are universal that tell us exactly how the other person is feeling. We call them a micro expression because the amount of time that they're there for and then they disappear. They're as fast as a fifth of a second down to 1/25th of a second. Now, in that, when something is said or something happens around us, we unconsciously react. We give away the expression and then our conscious mind steps in and shuts it off. So the micro expressions are going to give you the information about how the person is really feeling that you're talking to. Are they connected to what you're saying? Are they in agreement? Do they like what you're saying at the time? And those 7 expressions very quickly are anger, contempt, disgust, happiness and sadness, fear and surprise. The reason for I having a look of anger on my face or you having a look of anger on your face will be that somebody has violated our space. But the reason we got angry can be different. I'll get angry for one reason because the violation of my space appears in one way, but in your case it could be something else. But if either of us have, or any of us have a look of anger on our face, we're angry. And if anybody can read that, then you know exactly what the person's feeling. Then we have facial features. Now, facial features will tell us a person's personality. So without even speaking a single word, we're able to look at somebody and understand how they like to think and process, how they therefore like to be spoken to, how they're likely to react in any given situation. Now, that may sound a little bit new age or a little bit woo-woo, as some people have said to me, but if you think about an expression, if we feel something, as far as an expression goes, we will pull that expression on our face. So if we then work a muscle over and over again in the same way, it will take on a different shape. It'll create raised sections. It'll create crevices. So if you think about thinking about a certain way continually, and if you think really hard and you put your fingers above your eyebrows, you'll feel the muscles there. And if you pull them in, you'll feel them flex. If you do that over and over, you'll develop ridges and crevices. That tells me how that person likes to think. So by able to look at the facial features, I've got that information. Then what do I do with all that? I need to know how to talk to the person. So what I've worked with before is with neuro-linguistic programming. How do we use the language to steer the conversation and the thought processes of the person we're speaking to? How do we talk in a way that steers them into doing particular actions? So to bring that all together, I've used this triad process. If you look at it, the facial features at the top here, I'll be looking at 3 main areas. The feeling and emotion traits, how a person is likely to respond or how they feel about things. Their automatic expression, how they will respond when I do certain things or say certain things. And the way in which they like to think. Some people are very sequential thinkers. everything has to be structured. So the first thing they hear, they need to fully understand that before you can introduce something else. When they introduce the next section, that has to then connect to the first. Once they've got that together, then they move to the next point. So they are going to be slow in responding to the way that you present information. You'll need to make sure you don't bounce around the place, but it's very connected. Now, you might have noticed before when we first started this webinar, I got a little bit disjointed. I'm a sequential thinker, and my phone, even though I've got the volume off, was vibrating. It stopped ringing, then somebody rang back again. So you can see how that threw me out. So a sequential thinker, that's what will happen. So when you're talking to them, you have to make sure that everything's connected properly. So make sure that they understand each section before you go on to the next.
Can I just interrupt there, Alan?
Yeah.
Guys, just think how important that is when you are, say, for example, signing up a new distributor and they've got started, they said yes, and then you know this information, which means that you're able to deliver better to them to help them get started stronger. Because if you have somebody who, say, for example, is sequential, you'll know then to do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You might have somebody else who, may not be, and they're able to take on a myriad of things all at once. Of that. So understanding this is going to be so, so powerful to not only your understanding of yourself, but also your understanding of, I think one of the most important things is when you get a new customer or a new distributor signed up. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to...
No, that's brilliant. And please, if you think of anything along the way, Celine, please come in and say it, because I don't want this to turn into a talk fest, as I said, and I get caught up in what I'm doing and I just plow on through.
Yeah, no, go for it.
So it's a case of, and that's very important. So if you see anywhere in there that it relates to the way the distributors work or need to know, please interject. And as far as everybody else is concerned, if you've got any questions, put them in so that Celine can see them as well, and she can ask them as well.
Cool.
Because this is all about you getting as much out of this as you possibly can. I want to leave this with knowing that you've got some skills and tips that you're able to apply straight away and start to realise how well it works and bring in some more business for yourselves.
Awesome.
Okay. So, as I said, the other side of that sequential thinker is the objective thinker. So you may find some people will pull concepts from other places and put it together the picture. So you might be telling them about one thing and they go, oh, that reminds me of something else, because by pulling it in, they're getting a better picture of it than they would if you just explained it step by step. So some people are going to interject and try and pull you offline. So be ready for that as well. So once we've got and understand the features, we know how they like to think and process. So now we go, okay, we've got to get the language right. How are we going to speak to them? We need to know the level of detail they need. Are they big picture? Are they analytical? As I say to people, how often have you spoken to somebody, everything's been going perfectly well, and then all of a sudden they switch off? Well, the chances are that you're an analytical person who needs to get a lot of information before you can make a decision. And if that's the way you are, then you're going to talk that way. But if you have somebody who is big picture, they don't need all that other stuff. They've already they're ready to buy. They're ready to move into it. And they're going, right, I've got it. And you keep talking. Now you talk yourself out of the sale.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing how to pick that up. So you'll get that from their features. So you know that before you even start talking to them. So we have the level of detail. We have the style. Are they a very formal type of person? Are they very self-reliant, authoritative? Are they somebody who wants it structured in a way in which they're spoken to very formally? Or are they very laid back? Are they got a dry sense of humour? Are they going to interject and try and turn it into a laughable discussion? So that humour then gets them quicker to making a decision that, yes, they want to go ahead because they like you connect with you. But if you take that style with the person who's more authoritative, well, that's a little bit, what would you say, disrespectful to them. So, but we all talk the way we want to talk and expect other people to accept that. But most of the people won't, because most people aren't the same as us.
Mm-hmm.
Then the order. Is it structured? Is it bounced around the place, etc.? So once we've got the language right, now we've got the words. At the same time, in feedback as to whether we've got it right, we've got the body language and we've got the expressions on the face. So now we've got the cues that are coming back, which tells us whether our feedback is accurate or not. Did we get it right? If we got it right, then we have rapport. But in the cues, as I said, body language and expressions, one expression on its own is not enough. What's the context, first of all, that it's in? If we see a smile, have we said something that should elicit a smile, or should it have elicited something else? Then seeing them together, not one trait on its own defines a person. So it's the same with the expressions and the body language. Not one indicator, not one cue defines the situation either. We need to see the context. Folded arms, yeah, that may mean that I'm not interested, but if I'm leaning forward, talking to you, and I'm nodding and I'm asking questions, my feet are facing towards you, every other indicator says that I'm interested, the folded arms means absolutely nothing.
Right.
But the moment I unfold my arms, that should tell you the person is even more interested than what they were before. So you've really got the rapport. So this is why we need to see them in those. Because if you don't do that, then if you haven't got the features right, you're going to have a poor presentation. You'll talk yourself in and out of the sale. If you can't see the cues, then you're going to miss those buying signals altogether. If we haven't got the language right, we're going to be delivering the wrong message. So if we don't want these three parts out on the side, and we want to get to more sales in the middle, we have to go through those three areas. All
right, be honest, everybody. How many of us have talked ourselves in and out of a sale or in and out of a new distributor? Done it. Yeah. Powerful.
But we're going to look at a couple of traits which will help to refine this even further for you in a moment. But if I just change that now, that center point can be greater engagement. It doesn't necessarily mean to be sales. Some people might think, well, I'm not really a salesperson. Well, yes, you are. You're always dealing with a sale. I asked before how many people were parents. Now, trying to get your kids to eat their vegetables. Hey, Johnny, eat your broccoli. It's good for you. Yeah, try and get that one across. There's a big sale for you.
Juice Plus kids, they eat their broccoli. Come on, Alan.
Well, now they've got it in the right format, haven't they?
Exactly.
When it's on the plate, just being put through the microwave, no.
No.
That's why I did enjoy the Juice Plus products.
Yeah.
They're really the best way to take it. But then it's so in a sale, it's also in your partnerships, in your relationships. So anything you put in the middle to get to there effectively, you need to go through those three areas and using them together. Okay. Now, the reason I use this profiling system instead of asking people questions, see, I used to work with Myers-Briggs and DISC profiles, and I've looked at a lot of other profiling systems. But I found that when you ask people questions, they try and answer it in the way that they think that they should answer it, not the way that they should have answered it. And so the end result is we get misconceptions. And then there are people who say, well, I can look at somebody and observe them and read them. Yes, I can. But if I'm having a good day or a bad day, that one person I'm going to read completely differently because of my own tolerances. So what I needed was a better system, and that's why I looked at the facial features. Very quickly, the important point is there's no single trait defines you. There's no one trait that defines who you are, and every trait has an upside and every trait has a downside. So when it comes down to it, we're looking at the personality. It doesn't define your character. It defines how you like to think. So two people look very similar. One can be a saint, one can be a sinner. They're going to both process information in a similar way. They're both going to act in a similar way. But what they act on, that comes down to their character. So as I say, one can be a saint, one can be a sinner. So look at the facial features, because how many times have you looked at somebody who reminded you of somebody else in the past, and that person had done the wrong thing by you? So what's your initial feeling to the one you've just met? Exactly the same as what you felt about the person who did the wrong thing by you. Where we go there is we then judge them. We then behave in a certain way towards them, which creates a response from them very similar to the person that who wronged us in the first time around. But in this, we've actually created the situation. So when looking at the facial features, you're just realizing how a person likes to think and process, not what they're thinking and processing. When you start talking to them, how they respond in comparison to their personality traits will now tell you their character. So in a very short period of time, you can work their character out as well. Okay, now the first three things that we see on somebody's face when they walk past us in the street or we meet them for the first time, the first one is the width of the face. The second one is the height of the eyebrows. And the third one is the closeness of the eyes. Now in that, we find that the width of the face, what we're going to do first of all is, no, I'll go back to this one. If you look at the width of the face over here on the left, the two faces together, which one looks the more confident? The one with the narrow face or the one with the wide face?
Put in the chat, guys. Let's get some voting happening.
Just to make sure that nobody's fallen asleep on me yet.
What do we think? Okay, so we've got narrow, we've got wide. Okay, wide. Oh, and narrow again. Okay, so I don't know. Thanks, Casey. Good work.
This is brilliant, guys, because this is what I was expecting to see. We've all looked at people from a different point of view because we're looking at them from where we stand. Now, where I stand is on one level. If I look at the continuum between the two extremes on any trait, I'm somewhere along that line. You're each going to be along that line, but possibly in different places. So when we look at other people, we look at those at one side of us and we look at people at the other side of us. And we base them on us being the middle of the universe, whereas they are on the other, somewhere related to that. So what we actually do here is we take that out. We start to look at people and see a world continuum where everybody sits on it. We look at anyone on that line and we all look at the same person. We'll all come out with the same reading. So we've had narrow, we've had wide, we've had I don't know. What comes out of here, there's no right or wrong answer to this one when you're first looking at this. But what we've found in all the research that when they've looked at faces, the wider faces on average were seen to be the more confident. But we will see them as, especially those who have got the wide faces, will look at the narrow face one and go, no, there's no way they look confident. Whereas somebody who's got a more narrow face may say, yes, the narrow one is more confident because they feel more comfortable with them as well. If I now asked you in that, which one do you trust the most? It's more likely we've only got the two extremes, and we haven't got somebody in the middle. Usually people will say the one in the middle, but if you only look at the two extremes and they're the only ones you've got to choose from, most people will say the one that looks like me. Because we trust ourselves. So this is where this is why we all look at people and treat them differently and wonder why we get different results. So when it comes to the width of the face, we're looking at the dimensions, the width through the eye socket. And yes, the face down below can get wider and skinnier as we get older and all the rest of it. But the outside of the eyes, at the skeletal structure, that never changes. As we become adults, that will get to a width and stay at that. Because once the skeleton's set, it's set. The height of the forehead is, you can see, especially if you look at the picture on the two girls there, you'll see where the little bit of glare is, around about where my cursor is moving. That's around about where the turn of the forehead is. So we look at the width across the eyes compared from the base of the chin, the tip of the chin, to that turn of the forehead. And that's how we compare the face. At a lot of the talks I've given, I've actually, when I first started this, I made the mistake of saying to people, oh, roughly where the fringe line is. And then I get all these older gentlemen going, tapping their head over the back, and I'm going, no, your face is not getting longer. And the quickest way to see it, especially if somebody's, or even my little picture there, you can see a bit of a glare right at that point. And that's roughly where the turn of my forehead is. So as my hair recedes, it's not going to make any difference. That'll still be the height. So that's the first thing that we look at. Then we look at the height of the eyebrows. Which one of those two, by the way, looks the most friendly? The one at the top or the one at the bottom?
All righty, let's go in here. Into the chat again, guys. Let's have some voting. Top. Okay. Top. Oh, top's winning at the moment. Top. Cool. All right. Tops have got it.
Excellent. So I'll come back to that in a moment. I'll just step over to this first of all. Now, when I talk about space invaders, how often have you gone up to somebody and as you meet them for the first time, they step back or they haven't come as close to you? They seem to be like that satellite that's right away from you. Or you've had somebody come up and they get right in your face.
Oh, I invade people's space all the time. I'm a hugger.
Yeah, well, we're going to come back to your facial features in a moment. We're going to do profiling if you like. This is always a lot of fun because, as I said, there is no right or wrong trait. The traits you have are perfect for you, and every trait you have has an upside and a downside. Mm-hmm. The upside is where your strengths are. The downside is where you'll react when you're under stress. So this is why, if you understand that, you can set your environment up so it doesn't push your buttons.
Yeah.
And you then know how not to push other people's buttons. Because if you're, it should be about creating relationships, not burning bridges. So we go back to the two faces we had before there. So now we can see the whole face. One would still be the most friendly. Would that be right?
Mm.
Exactly.
Look. Yeah, yep. We're still getting that. Yep.
Yeah. So where this comes in, and one of the things I really need to be able to do is find somebody who is brilliant with Photoshop so I can take one face and just move a couple of features.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because we have the different coloured eyes and everything else. But that's why I had before just the area of the eye area itself with the nose gone and the forehead gone.
Yeah.
To get as much out of the way that's putting off. Because we look at the shape of the lips, we look at the shape of the nose. We've got one with a wider face, one with a narrower face.
Mm.
So we look at people in their entirety, but what we're trying to do is here we're trying to isolate one trait at a time. But it'll be in the height of the eyebrows. People with higher eyebrows need more space. It's not that they are not friendly, it is that they are more discerning.
Okay, let me have a look at you all.
And think about it yourself. And this is where I usually say to people, if if there's no mirror next to you, if you've got your phone with you, just take a
photo. Good idea.
So you can have a look. And the way we look at it here, by the way, is everybody has different shape eyebrows. You have some that are very horizontal like mine. You have others that strike up like rockets at an angle. You then have others that are more round. So where we're looking for is, so you look at the eye and you look for where the pupil is, and you imagine a vertical line. And you'll see on this one, on number 1, per gap, we look at the coloured section of the eye through the pupil, we're looking at underneath the eyelash to above the bottom eyelash, and we're looking at, or eyelid, what we're looking at there is the height of that coloured section and wondering whether that would fit in underneath the eyebrow. So above the eyelash, if we just took it out and moved it up, you can see that in number 1, it wouldn't go in, it would be extremely tight, especially on the right side. Whereas the one on number 2, the coloured section of the eye would fit in and there'd be a lot of space. It'd probably come to where the tip of my cursor is right now, and you've got extra space. And if you think about surprise and fear, a person's eyebrows go up, and as they go up, they pull back. And our initial feeling when we see someone's eyebrows go up is to pull it back. Mm. This trait's been around for, how long have Japanese had geisha girls? Right back through all those centuries. Yeah. Geisha girls would actually pluck their eyebrows and they'd paint them on higher. And that was to tell everybody, stay away from me, I don't belong to you. They only belong to the particular men that owned them. So the high eyebrows were set there to separate them from other people.
Interesting. So
that's how, when I started looking at this and realised that the facial expressions and the facial features, there was strong correlation between them. And why, when I put it together, I couldn't understand why nobody else worldwide had put the two together. So when you look at number 2, it's that high section. So straight up through the pupil to the underside of the eyebrow there, it's a huge gap. Mm-hmm. Now, a discerning person, as I said, it's not about them not being friendly.
Yep.
They like to stand back and work out who's safe to be around and who's not safe to be around. Once they've worked out who's safe, they're as friendly as anybody else. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did 2 interviews for an internet TV program, and the lady who asked me about this, I talked about the high set eyebrows. As she said, one of her girlfriends says, "Oh, you're always standing back from people. You don't like people." And she said, "No, that's not true." She said, "Once I get to know the person, I love them to death." And that's the whole thing. As I said, it's not about whether you're friendly or not. It's about whether you're discerning or not. So the discerning person will have some space. Now, if you've got the low set eyebrows and you move close to them, what have you just done? You've disrespected them, and you told them that their space is not important. You'll come in like that space invader. So while you're trying to connect with them, they're feeling uncomfortable. Right. And if they're uncomfortable, they're not listening to what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
It's one of the reasons why, because I've got low set eyebrows, I'll walk up to people, and as I go to meet them, I'll stop before they get to me. I'll put my hand out. I'll let them set their space up. Once they've set their space up, I then know not to invade that. And if I want to find out whether I've got a connection with them, all I've got to do is lower my voice. And as I'm talking to them, and if there's noise around and they want to hear what I've got to say because they want to hear it, they'll lean in. Or the next time I see them,
run away from me when I try to hug them. It's just that they're just setting their space. Okay.
Exactly. Get to know them, then they'll welcome your hugs. But, I've played with this a few times with people who've got the discerning trait. It's almost like a Benny Hill chase. They're running around the room. As I step forward, they move away, and I step forward.
The younger ones won't have a clue who Benny Hill is, but that's okay. I got a laugh there.
It's like fast. It's almost like a silent movie put in high-speed chase.
Yeah.
And it's run at 3 times the speed. And that's what happens. So if you have the high set eyebrows, be aware that the person who sees you, who's got low set eyebrows, they're going to think that you're not as friendly. So if you want to connect with them, you may need to go out of your comfort zone and sit a little bit or stand a little bit closer to them.
Right.
But you can, instead of standing directly facing them, as you come forward, you can turn your body slightly. So out one side of your body, there's a big escape route. So you feel more comfortable, but you're more shoulder to shoulder on one side, so they feel comfortable that you're a likable person. Yeah, because they're affable. They want to know that you're affable as well. You can change the colour of your clothing, the makeup. All of those things can be changed to actually change the effect of the image that you're projecting, but you can still be yourself. You can keep your space, but because you had the colouring and everything else, whether it be with men, the shaving a beard or the grooming of the hair, etc., and the same thing with the women, it then allows you to make that connection with them. Mm. So I work with stylists as well. So I'll talk about the traits, and then people can then go to the stylist and go, okay, now I need to groom myself in a way for my audience, the people I want to connect to.
Yep.
And it makes it completely different. So let's have a look at the next one. There was the image of it. So as I said before, up through the pupil, underneath the eyebrow. So the difference between the coloured section and that gap. Okay. Right. How often have you been, as I said before, you've spoken to somebody and they're just switched off? So this one is in whether they've got an exposed eyelid or a concealed eyelid. You'll see the gentleman on number 1 here. You see this fold of skin, that grooved area. And on number 1, it sits over the eyelash, but slightly exposed over here. But most of all, it's over the eyelash. So number 2, we call that a concealed eyelid. Number 1 is exposed. There's the fold of skin, the eyelid is well away from it. So what we have here is number 1 only wants the big picture. The more skin they've got in that area, and in some people you won't even see that line. You'll see it in a lot of Asians, but you'll also see on Asians a very close eyelid to the actual, a fold of skin to the eyelid itself. Now you could say that as we get older, you start to see that fold of skin coming down. I was very much big picture. Now mine is half concealed and half exposed. But it's mainly because of the extra work I've had to do and all the research, so all the study. I'm always focusing in. So when I'm doing that, I'm pulling my eyes down, I'm squinting, I'm looking at things, so it's pulled the skin down. When I train people, I use photographs of many people, and a lot of them are very old. They're in their 70s and 80s and even older, and they have, like number 1 here, the exposed eyelid still. So it's not just an age thing, it's the way we like to process information, how we take it in. So number 1, just give me the big picture. Whereas number 2 is going to want to analyze everything. They may be big pictures. So yeah, I can look at a whole bunch of different things and bring them together, but they won't make a decision until they've analyzed it. They may not have gone out and got the information themselves. They may expect somebody else to get it for them, but they won't make the decision until they've got it. Now, you will find that if you're analytical and you start talking to somebody who's big picture, they will either switch off or they will try and finish your sentences. Let's move on. Let's move on. That's what they're at. And that's the indicator to you straight away. This person, if they're trying to answer your questions or start to ask questions and move to the next step, you know they're big picture, but the giveaway of that fold of skin or the lack of the skin altogether tells you they're just big picture. So keep it brief. If they're analytical and you're big picture, you're going to try and go wide, and they're going to keep stopping you, want to go deep on each point that you're talking about. So they'll ask you more questions about that last thing you spoke about. They'll keep dragging you back.
So that's why, team, scripts are handy, but they're not, laid in stone. So it's like, you can have your points that you want to cover, and you'll kind of be determined by the interaction with people as to how deep you need to go on each point. And that. So, if somebody is moving you through, move through with them. Okay, keep going. Let them set the pace for what it is. And then somebody who really needs to know more information, they will ask some more questions, or you'll be able to see. So this is a great indicator for that first point, and then listening for the verbal cues as well.
That's exactly right. Okay. Now, if you look at these two, which one looks the most tolerant, number 1 or number 2?
All right, let's have some voting again, guys. Okay, most tolerant.
Yeah.
Okay, number 1 or 2? 2. Twos. The twos have got it, I'm thinking.
It's not a hard one, is it?
No.
But even if you put your hand up on the screen and you took out the forehead and you took out the above the nose, so only looking at the eye area, even taking the eyebrows out, number 2 still looks tolerant over number 1. Number 1 is extremely focused. Everybody's tolerant, but under stress, number 1 will lose it very quickly. Number 2, well, they're just as likely to lose, get distracted. They're laid back, but they'll get distracted when you're talking to them. So if you're talking to number 1 and they want to understand everything before they move on, if there's something that they're working on that's important, you'd never go and interrupt them. They're the ones that have to fix it. Whereas the wider set eyes are quite happy to work with other people, have other people come over and talk to them. If I've got somebody I need their help and they've got narrow set eyes and they're working on something and it's really, I can see that they're focused on it, there's no way I'm going to tap them on the shoulder and say, come over and give me a hand. I do need their help. I'll tap them on the shoulder and say, look, I notice that you're very much engaged in what you're doing. It looks really important. So I've acknowledged them. I've given them that little bit of respect. And I go, but I really do need your help. How much time do you need to get that to a level where you can come and give me a hand? Would 5, 10 minutes? What do you need? And if they say 10 minutes, I'll go back in 11. I won't go back in 9 because I'll negate everything I said before. They need to know that, yes, I've given them that time. But what it comes down to is that when they've actually, because I've acknowledged it, if I drag them over to come and work with me straight away without giving them that time frame, physically they'd be there, but their mind's still going to be on the problem. So they're not really going to be there helping me. But by having that little bit of a contract, because they do take things serious and they take high responsibility with things, because they've made a contract with me, so to speak, that they are then going to come and give me a hand after that 10 minutes, physically they will come over, and yes, they're more likely to come and give me a hand and think about it as well, be present in the need. Now, you think about if you've got someone that you're talking to, and they're trying to get their head around things, they've got close set eyes and they're going quiet, they look to be very thoughtful, allow them a little bit more time to process through, and even say to them, look, I can see that you're really concentrating here. You know, what in particular can I give you some more information on? What would help you? And let them guide you. You know, the wider set eyes, especially if they've got, now if you start putting traits together, those with the exposed eyelids who are big picture and those with wide set eyes, if they've got both of those, they just want the big picture and they're going to be distracted. Oh, there's shiny, there goes a bird. So you'll lose their connection really quickly. So you need to be right on mark with giving just the big picture and bringing them into it. Now, if you do have to tell somebody a lot of detail in their big picture, I'll say to them, look, I'm going to tell you about this. I'll just give you the big picture first of all. There are some things that you need to know, but I'll allow you to ask the questions that you want to ask first. And if there's any items that I have to tell you, I'll let you know what they are as well. The person with the exposed eyelid is going to say thank you. If they've got the wide set eyes as well, they're even going to be even more happier with that. Then I go through it and say, right, well, that's the big picture. What questions have you got? They ask their question. Go, well, right. Remember before I said there was a section where some stuff I had to tell you? That boring stuff? Well, we're there now. They usually laugh with you and everything else. You get that little bit out of the way. They made a contract with you in the way in which you preempt things. So if you're able to understand the traits, you know how to deliver to them, but you also know how to preempt how the conversation's going to go. And you have all that structure over the top of that.
Awesome.
But that's what it is. When you're looking at the width, we're looking at the inside corner of the eye, the overall width of the eye, and looking at the gap in between. Would it fit in between? The wide set, just have this larger gap. Quickest way to measure it, though, is do they look wide or do they look close set? If you have to, on any trait, if you have to bend your head, stick your tongue out, whatever, then you know that you've got the, it's in the middle. Let it go. Don't worry about it. You want the extremes. If I'm training somebody to profile other people on a professional level, we'll worry about it then. But in most people in life, no, you just want to know the extremes and then how to talk to those extremes. So that's pretty much a bit of an overview.
Cool.
Tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know, having done some work with you, that there's a lot more in there. But for something like this, that just gives you a really, really great overview idea of just how important those little subtle things are. It's amazing, like even just since the interactions I've had with Alan, just the little bits there of being able to kind of, watch what people are thinking or doing, or just how to communicate a little bit more, not running straight in for the hugs that like I might have done in the past and that. But yeah, no, excellent questions, guys. Anybody got any questions or comments? Look at this. Thanks. We've got a thank you here. I've done a bit of this before, but totally forgot. Yes, Jack, it's good to be reminded, isn't it? Found that very informative. Thank you. Good on you, Katrin. Any other comments or questions that you have? Now, what we will have is when we post the video up in the group, we're also going to have some information about some courses. Alan, would you like to speak to that? You've got some online courses that our team might want to take advantage of.
Excellent. Yeah, I've put together, because I realised a lot of people around the world, I couldn't train everyone. So about February last year, I put together some courses, and the first one I put up with Valentine's coming around was a pre-recorded course on how to find the right partner. So it was safe online dating. That I then put a second one out for business people. Well, I looked at the dating site and thought, well, we've got 200 million people around the world on dating sites. But then I realised we've got a lot more business people out there around the world. So I put together Business Essentials Fast Start. It goes into those traits that you've seen today, but a whole lot of others, all about how to build instant rapport with somebody. How do you make that connection? So that particular course was recently then recognised by an RTO for real estate agents. And each year the real estate agents have to get their own, what do you call it now, credit points, professional development points.
Professional.
And it's now been recognised for those points.
Awesome.
Yesterday, it was picked up by the MFAA, who are one of the governing bodies of the finance industry, as also a professional development program as well.
Awesome.
That particular one, I've had a couple of other networking groups who have also decided to use that course as well in their training. Because everybody's realising that, yes, we can go out and push the numbers, but you burn a lot of people. You burn family and friends. So you really want it to, if somebody that you speak to says, oh, no, I'm not interested, then you want it so that later on they come back and they go, well, how's it going? They don't just stay away from it. They're curious about, well, how's the business going? Is it growing, etc., which gives you another opportunity to talk to somebody who said no before.
Absolutely.
Without chasing people and burning them. There's enough people out there, and let's face it, as far as a business goes, network marketing is one of the most honourable ones that I can see. It's one that allows everybody an opportunity to create a great income and also a great lifestyle for their families.
Absolutely.
Because while we're doing this, the kids might be at school, but you're going to be home when they come home. Whereas you can't do that in a regular job.
Totally.
So being able to connect with people and make sure that they want to talk to you. They want to know how things are going. That's why building those relationships are so important. So the online course were pre-recorded modules. They go into the traits. They also have sheets on telling you how to talk to people. So if you're down one end of the profile, say you're an A, as I call it, or the other end was a C, how do you talk to the C? How do they, how would they then change and talk back to you? So regardless of what level you are, it tells you how to talk to the other person. So on each trait, there's 9 possibilities. You could be an A talking to an A, B, or a C. You could be a B talking to an A, B, or a C. The same with the C's. So there's 9 possible combinations. But once you know what you are, you've only got 3 combinations to learn. And if you recognise a person's got the same trait as you, just talk normally. You've really got to only learn the opposite trait. So I make it really simple for people, and that course will take you, about 100 minutes.
Yeah, I've put it in here into the chat, and I'll also, of course, it will go into the newsletter as well. So that's 9 modules. It'll take less than about 2 hours to get through it, and it's $197. I see the link there for them to go through. And when will that offer finish? So it'll go into our newsletter together. So can we have that offer till the end of the week or something?
Yes, you can.
Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. So we'll get out there. So guys, if you want to have more information on that, you'll see there's a promo video there. We've put the link in there as well for that. So I think that's important. Now, I'm just going to go backwards. There's a question there. If you're talking to people online, you can't see their face. Well, I suppose we start to get into tone and voice and all sorts of things there. But the other thing too, remember guys, social media now, everybody's online. You'll probably be able to see a picture of them.
One of the things I say to everybody is, I'm a social media stalker. So the moment you tell me that you want to talk to me, I'm going to go to Facebook, I'm going to go to LinkedIn. If it's a business person, I'll go to their website. If I can see your face, I can profile you.
Yeah.
You know, as far as how big does the face need to be? Well, on the traits that we talked about, if the image is only as big as your thumbnail or that first length of your thumb, you can read the whole face.
Yeah.
So, and I've profiled children from those, and their parents have come back and told me it was dead accurate. So, you know, once you learn how to read people, and by the way, anybody who does one of my courses, I also have a secret Facebook group. On the course itself, you can put questions up that everybody can read, and then they see all the answers that I put out. In the Facebook page, only those that have done my course will find it because I have to invite them to it. But this is where they can pose questions that they want to ask. And we have discussions. It also gives you the opportunity, because I believe it's mandatory. If people come into my community, they have to be able to connect with each other and see what synergies they've got. See if there's opportunities to actually grow their business together.
Yeah.
So I promote that, where some people go, oh, no, it's just my stuff. No, it isn't. It's once you come into my community, it's all about how do we build relationships right.
Bless you.
So that's what it's all about. So you can be part of that. Then at the same time, if you do have any personal questions, there's also using my website and that / and the word call, that you can book in a 15-minute chat with me. where you can bring up any situation that you want to talk more in depth about.
Excellent.
That's always there for anybody that does my courses. At the end of the day, I want people to be very successful at what they do, because if they're successful, there's my advertising budget. I don't spend any money on advertising, but I'm getting a lot of publicity because of it.
Yeah, awesome. Fantastic. Well, we are top of the hour just about. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really, really informative.